So I've found that lately that if I have some kind of complicated environment I want to put together or work with, then the container is the way to go. Getting a software container, I was playing with one with somebody the other day, and we had a Jupyter Notebook we were using, and there was some other, it was a Kaggle container, and it had like 18 gigabytes of stuff loaded. So I could create a very complicated, complex, sophisticated software environment using a container without having to muck around with my machine, and I could update it anytime I wanted by just pulling down a new container. And then we were playing with a Hadoop cluster thing, and really what it came down to is, how can I do software development in my container? How can I get code into the container so that I can actually use it, right? And so there are really two ways to do this. So one of the things to think about is that a Docker container is really a mini machine, and it's got its own disk drive. So if you had a host, in this case, I'm on a Windows machine, but you could be on a Mac, you could be on a Linux machine, you could be on something else. And that your machine has its own hard drive. And then the Docker container, which looks like a mini VM, has its own drive, and the two don't share any data. So if you want to get source code or data onto the box, now for data, we usually do a remote fetch, but if you're doing it locally, right, and you want to get code onto that, and you actually want to develop with it, or you just want to run it, then there's really two ways to do it. There's the copy option, which basically is log into your container, or you do a Docker CP, and you copy stuff to that, and then you log in and you start editing your code, like using a Jupyter Notebook or something else, and then you got to pull it back off. So it's really Docker CP edit Docker CP. You know what? I'm going to take a note and write that down on my hand. Docker CP. No, I'm not. So, and then the other way to do this is you can actually mount your parts of your local file system on your laptop or desktop onto the Docker drive, inside the Docker file system. Just like you could do a Windows file share or NFS, we don't do that anymore, or whatever else, right? So the two options are you can copy in and then copy out, or you can mount part of your local disk into that container, and then it appears as if it's in the container. So let's look a little bit more at that, right? I'm going to move this over. So that's what I'm looking at here, right? We're looking at the two options. So if we look at how a drive works, I'm actually going to shrink this down a little bit. If we look at how a machine works, right? So this is my host. It's got a file system on it, and I'm on my machine, and I can do ls documents, and I see that I've got this thing called my project. In a Docker container that's running on that same machine, it's got its own directory. And so let's just pretend it's called home Docker user. It could be like home Jupyter. It could be home anything, TensorFlow, whatever. It's got its own file system. It's actually a file on your file system. But the net is there's two drives. And if I'm on my machine, I can do a docker exec -it bin bash. And that puts me in a command prompt, assuming that Docker container is not super lightweight and software development ones aren't. And then I'll be logged in there and I see a completely different set of files, right? And I can't see from this Docker disk drive over to the other one. Now, it turns out when you create your Docker node, and I'm not doing a Docker compose here, although that's usually my favorite. If you do a -v, and then you can tell it what local directory you have and where you want to put it. So in that case, I'm going to do my home directory, which should have been /documents. I ran out of space there. /my project, : it's going to show up in /home /docker user /my project. So now if I'm in ls docker user, I can see dot and my project, right? Before all I could see was dot. Now I can see my project in there. And that thing is actually mounted. It's actually, so I can do an ls here and see in documents, I can see my project, and I can do an ls here and see my project. And it's the same one. And you don't want to edit it in both places, but it means if you make a change in one, you can see it in the other. So if you're running Visual Studio on your main machine and you're editing the files in Documents My Project, then when you do an ls down here, whatever, if this thing was sitting in, if it did an ls and you looked into My Project, whatever files you created up on your drive would automatically be changed here. And then you could run Python or do something else with them, submit it to a MapReduce job, whatever you want. So the point was, we can find a drive. When we start the container, we tell it what drive to mount. It'll put it in that location. And then if we were going to use Visual Studio on our laptop or desktop, whatever we saved, it would save into the remote. Now with Visual Studio, there's other remote things you can do. You can put a remote agent in. But I'm not going to do that because that's confusing to a lot of people. If you edit a file that is non-mounted, so if somebody said vi/op_foo down here and they edit it, because it's on this local drive, it's not the shared mount, this host couldn't see it anyway because it's in that drive. This change would be local. If I were to tear this machine down and nuke it and build up a new machine, this change would be lost. But because I mounted my drive in here with the -v option, when that thing mounted back up, whatever changes I'd made the time before would show up because they're really on this drive. The reverse of this is a Jupyter Notebook. The Jupyter Notebook is editing the local copy, and that thing is mounted between these two. Any change you make in the Jupyter Notebook is made on this project, actually is making the edit to this project on the main drive. So this is the reverse editing situation. Any changes we make locally to a mounted file will show up in the main. If we were to bring this container down, destroy the disk, and bring it back, we would actually see the changes that we had made in our previous Jupyter Notebook, right? So you can mount it and edit it on the main machine, or you can mount it and run things like Jupyter Notebooks inside the container. And when the container is destroyed, you'll still have your changes. This is actually the way I use my Jupyter Notebooks all the time. And I'll have a script example of that in another talk. So the goal here, right, was to pick a way to be able to get your code, develop code in a Docker container. And this example was the mount option, all right? And I'll do a different one on 2 ways to do the copy option. I hope that was good. Have a great day.